Stop talking. Right now, stop explaining yourself. Stop defending your decisions. Stop filling every silence with noise, because every word you speak is a weapon you're handing to your enemies. And most of you are walking around completely unarmed because you've given all your weapons away. Niccolò Machiavelli understood something that you don't. He understood that silence is not the absence of power. Silence is power concentrated. While everyone else is desperate to be heard, to explain, to justify, to perform, the silent man is watching, learning, calculating. And when he finally speaks, his words don't just land, they obliterate. You've been taught the opposite. You've been taught that communication is key, that you need to express yourself, that silence is awkward, that you should fill every pause with words, and that programming is exactly why you have no power, because you're leaking information constantly. You're revealing your hand, you're showing your cards, and people are using everything you say against you. Let me show you what happens when you talk too much. You're in a meeting. Someone challenges your idea, and instead of sitting in the discomfort of that challenge, instead of letting the silence do the work, you immediately launch into defense mode. You explain. You justify. You provide context. You give them more information. And with every sentence, you're digging yourself deeper. Because defensiveness signals weakness. And the moment you start explaining, you've already lost. Machiavelli wrote, "Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few experience what you really are. When you talk constantly, you remove all mystery. You become transparent. And transparent people are easy to manipulate, easy to predict, easy to control. But the man who says nothing, he's a black box. People project their own fears onto him. They assume he knows more than he does. They give him power he hasn't even claimed yet. All because he kept his mouth shut." Think about the most powerful people you've encountered. Not the loud ones, not the ones who dominate every conversation, but the ones who speak once and everyone listens. What makes them different? It's not what they say. It's how much they don't say. It's the restraint, the discipline, the understanding that words are a finite resource, and most people are bankrupt because they spend them like they're printing money. Here's the brutal truth. Every time you speak, you're taking a risk. You're revealing information about your intentions, your insecurities, your knowledge gaps, your emotional state. And people who understand power are listening for exactly those things. They're listening for the cracks in your armor, for the places they can exploit, and you're giving them a roadmap by running your mouth. I want you to try something. Next time you're in a conversation and someone says something provocative, something designed to get a reaction from you, say nothing. Just look at them. Hold eye contact. Don't smile. Don't nod. Don't fill the space. Just wait. Watch what happens. Within seconds, they'll start to squirm. They'll start talking more, trying to fill the void you've created. And with every additional word, they're revealing more about themselves while you're revealing nothing. This is the vacuum technique. Silence creates a psychological void that humans are compelled to fill. We're social creatures. We're terrified of awkward silence. So when you don't respond, when you don't give them the satisfaction of engagement, they panic. And in that panic, they expose themselves. They show you their insecurities, their tactics, their true intentions, all because you refused to play the game they expected. Machiavelli practiced this religiously. In the court, when others were scrambling to voice their opinions, to be seen as valuable, he would sit back and observe. He would let them talk themselves into corners, let them reveal their alliances, their ambitions, their weaknesses. And only then, after he had all the information, would he speak. And when he did, his words carried the weight of someone who knew more than everyone else in the room. Not because he was smarter, but because he was quieter. But here's where most people fail. They think silence means being passive. They think silence means you have nothing to say. That's not what this is. Strategic silence is active. It's observational. It's predatory. You're not being quiet because you're scared. You're being quiet because you're hunting. You're gathering intelligence. You're waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Let me give you a practical example. You're negotiating. Could be a salary negotiation. Could be a business deal. Could be a relationship boundary. The other person makes their offer. And instead of immediately responding, instead of showing your cards, you pause. You let the silence hang in the air. 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 15 seconds. The longer you wait, the more uncomfortable they become. And in that discomfort, they start to doubt themselves. They start to wonder if their offer was too low, if they miscalculated. And often, without you saying a single word, they'll improve their offer just to break the silence. This is psychological warfare, and most people lose before the fight even starts, because they don't understand that the person who speaks first loses leverage. The person who explains loses authority. The person who justifies loses respect. Silence forces the other person to reveal their position, while you reveal nothing. Now let's talk about social situations. You're at a gathering. Someone tells a joke that's not funny. Everyone laughs out of politeness, except you. You don't laugh. You just watch. Someone makes a comment fishing for agreement. You don't give it. You just observe. At first, people are confused. Why isn't he playing along? But slowly, the dynamic shifts. They start seeking your approval, your validation, because you're the only one in the room who isn't performing. You're the only one with standards, and that scarcity of approval makes it valuable. This is amused mastery. It's the ability to observe the social game without participating in it. You're above the fray, not arrogant, not antisocial, just detached. And that detachment is magnetic, because most people are desperate for reactions, for validation, for engagement. But you're not giving it freely. You're making them earn it. And that makes you the highest status person in the room without saying a word. Machiavelli understood that the prince must control information, not just what information goes out, but what information comes in. When you talk constantly, you're focused outward. You're broadcasting. You're not receiving. But when you're silent, you're in reception mode. You're downloading data. You're seeing patterns. You're noticing things that the talkers miss because they're too busy performing. Here's another layer. Silence protects you from your own stupidity. I've said things I regret. We all have, and every single time, it was because I spoke before I thought. I reacted instead of responded. I filled a silence that should have been left empty. And those words, you can't take them back. They're out there, forever, being used against you, being remembered, being weaponized. But if you pause, if you create space between stimulus and response, you give yourself the option to calibrate, to choose the perfect words instead of the first words, to say nothing at all. If that's the most powerful move, this is emotional control. This is discipline. This is the difference between a reactive child and a strategic adult. Now I need to warn you about something. When you start practicing strategic silence, people will test you. They'll try to pull you back into the old patterns. They'll ask, "Why are you so quiet?" They'll say, "You're being weird." They'll try to make you feel uncomfortable for not playing along. This is the social immune system trying to reject a foreign element. Because your silence threatens the status quo. It forces people to confront the fact that they talk too much, that they reveal too much, that they're weak, and they don't want that mirror held up. Do not break. Do not explain your silence. That defeats the entire purpose. If someone asks why you're quiet, you can say, "I'm listening," that's it. Or you can say nothing at all, and just smile slightly. Make them uncomfortable with your comfort, because the person who is at peace with silence is the person who controls the room. Let me show you the dark side of this. Silence can be weaponized to intimidate. You're in a confrontation. Someone is yelling at you, trying to provoke you, and you just stare. No reaction, no defense, no attack, just cold observation. What happens? They escalate. They get louder, more aggressive, because they're not getting the response they want. And eventually, they exhaust themselves. They look unhinged, irrational, while you look calm, controlled, dangerous. All because you refuse to engage. This is how you win fights without throwing a punch. This is how you dominate conversations without saying a word. This is how you become untouchable, because you can't be baited, you can't be manipulated, you can't be pulled into drama. You're a fortress, and fortresses don't need to explain themselves. Machiavelli also knew that silence increases your perceived intelligence. There's a cognitive bias called the halo effect. If you're quiet, and people don't know what you're thinking, they assume you're thinking something profound. They assume you're smarter than you might actually be. But the moment you open your mouth and reveal that you're just average, the illusion shatters. Better to remain silent and be thought-wise than to speak and remove all doubt. Here's the hierarchy. The fool talks constantly and says nothing of value. The average person talks when they have something to say. The wise person talks only when their words will have maximum impact. And the master knows when silence is the most powerful statement of all. Think about interrogations. Detectives know this. They ask a question and then they shut up. They let the silence pressure the suspect. And most suspects, unable to handle the discomfort, start talking and talking. They confess. They reveal. They incriminate themselves. All because they couldn't sit in silence. Meanwhile, the detective said almost nothing. He just created the void and let human nature fill it. You need to become the detective in your own life. When someone accuses you of something, when someone challenges you, when someone tries to put you on the defensive, your first instinct should be silence, not explanation. Silence. Let them sit in their own accusation. Let them hear how ridiculous it sounds when you don't dignify it with a response. Most accusations fall apart under the weight of their own absurdity when they're not met with resistance. But here's the nuance. Silence is not avoidance. If someone asks you a direct question that requires an answer, you answer. If a situation demands clarity, you provide it. Strategic silence is not about being difficult. It's about being economical with your words. It's about understanding that attention is a resource, and you don't waste resources on things that don't matter. Let me give you the practical framework. Before you speak, ask yourself 3 questions. 1. Is this necessary? 2. Will this improve the situation? 3. Am I speaking to serve my ego or to serve my strategy? If the answer to any of these is no or ego, shut your mouth. Wait. Observe. Let the moment pass. 9 times out of 10, you'll be glad you said nothing. Machiavelli spent years in exile, alone, silent, forgotten by the world he once served. And in that silence, he wrote The Prince. a book that has influenced leaders for 500 years. He didn't need to be in the room. He didn't need to be part of the conversation. He became the conversation by mastering the one thing nobody else could. And that's the final lesson. The world is full of people trying to be heard, trying to be seen, trying to matter, and they're all competing for scraps of attention. But you don't compete. You withdraw, you observe, you cultivate mystery. You become the question mark that everyone wants to solve. And the more they try to figure you out, the more power you accumulate. Because power isn't given to those who beg for it. It's given to those who don't seem to need it. So here's your challenge. For the next 7 days, practice strategic silence. In every interaction, say half as much as you normally would. When someone tries to provoke you, say nothing. When someone asks your opinion, pause for 5 full seconds before responding. When you're in a group, be the one who listens, instead of the one who talks. And watch what happens. Watch how people start treating you differently. Watch how much information you gather. Watch how much power you gain. Machiavelli mastered silence, and silence made him immortal. Your words will be forgotten, but your presence, your restraint, your ability to command a room without opening your mouth, that's what people remember. That's what makes you dangerous. That's what makes you untouchable. Subscribe if you're ready to stop talking and start controlling. Not because I told you to, but because you finally realize that the less you say, the more you matter.